This will come up later in the video, but you all probably remember the Kyle Pitts trade rumors. And I'm curious, just from the get-go, before you sort of watch the video and see some of my thoughts on the matter, what did you all think of the option of Kyle Pitts going to the Jaguars? Let us know in the comments down below, because that trade rumor, it kind of went away, but you never know when those pop back up, especially once games start happening in the preseason. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below, because I'm curious if that was a trade that you really wanted to see, or was that one that you're okay that it didn't pan out? You know, every new NFL season brings a whole host of questions we just won't have answers to until play really starts. Now, one of those big questions the Jaguars are facing moving into 2025 is just who the major players on offense are going to be. Now, obviously, the unit and whether or not it's successful, a lot of that is going to be tied to whether or not that offensive line can improve, protect the quarterback, open up some running lanes, that sort of thing. No one's going to debate that. In fact, that's pretty much true of almost every team. The offensive line, often the unsung heroes of a successful team. However, weapons-wise, there's some questions that are going to be worked through. Now, obviously, Trevor Lawrence, we know some of the deficiencies from the past. We know where he needs to improve. We know some of the things that Trevor Lawrence is good at. We kind of know what to expect from the running game. We know that it looks like Tank Bigsby is going to be kind of the guy moving forward. I think most people expect him to sort of win that starting job, that RB1 job. And as far as Travis Etienne, maybe he stays on the team, maybe he doesn't. That's all to be determined. And I think preseason and what we see there is going to have a lot to do with that. Though I would argue that Travis Etienne's role, where he really excels, is sort of out of the backfield when you can get him onto those screens, little flare passes. I think he has a little bit more of a dynamic nature maybe than Bigsby does, but I think the consensus seems to be that Bigsby is going to be the starter when it comes to running back. Then as far as wide receivers go, we know who the big names are. Brian Thomas Jr. is going to hopefully pick up right where he left off last season and continue to grow as a player into a true wide receiver one. And then, of course, Travis Hunter. We don't know exactly how much of a role he's going to have. Obviously, we expect it to be significant, but we don't really know how many snaps he's going to play. Is he going to be an every down player, or is he going to be a most downs player? We're just not sure. One of the biggest question marks, though, for me, aside from those individual players and kind of what their roles may exactly be, but the biggest question to me as far as positions goes is tight end. And that's because over the past few years, the Jaguars leaned on Evan Engram to be their tight end one, especially in the passing game, and kind of bring that big-bodied receiver that can make some plays down the field into the offense. And for the first couple of years, it worked really well. Engram stayed healthy for the most part and played a major role in the Jaguars' offense, especially year one under Doug Peterson. He was a major player there. Him, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, they formed this really dynamic receiver core for Trevor Lawrence the second year, the first under Doug Peterson. But now that Engram is gone, Brenton Strange is going to be the guy that I guess picks up that role as best he can. Now, Strange is a bit of an enigma as far as figuring out what he's going to look like moving forward. Now, here's the good news. Last season, he played a obviously far more significant role in the team's offense than he had as a rookie, and he did okay. Now, a comparison between Engram and Strange isn't really a great one because there's so many factors that played into weak numbers for Engram, more playing time for Strange in 2024 injuries, quarterback changes as a result of injuries and things like that. So it's really not an overly useful comparison, but what I do want to point out here is twofold. First off, Strange did stay healthy in 2024, which is obviously going to be a good sign. He played a full season's worth of games and stayed healthy. The other item to sort of circle is the fact that he came away with 411 receiving yards. And while that's not a huge amount, especially when you compare it to what Engram did the previous couple of seasons, 411 is a good role player for the tight end position. And with Engram now out of the roster and off to the Broncos, I would expect that role for Strange to now increase. Obviously, the expectations are also going to increase, but he's rolling into his third year now. And we saw a lot of growth from year 1 to year 2, whereas year 1, he had virtually no role in the offense whatsoever, very sparingly used. To year 2, he had a significant role. And again, a chunk of that was because of injury, but he did step up when he was in the lineup and did provide a serviceable replacement to Engram when Engram wasn't able to go. So the hope, of course, is that Strange takes those numbers, what he did from 2024, and continues to grow from that as a player. Now, it's because of this uncertainty, though, that a lot of rumors swirled right there towards the end of the offseason before training camp hit, that Kyle Pitts might be a trade target for the Jaguars. And I don't know if that's gonna be a feasible trade in the future. I don't know whether Atlanta really wants to hang on to him. I think a lot of Kyle Pitts and his trade value depends on what the season looks like as it unfolds. Is Atlanta looking like they're moving more towards a reboot, or are they looking like it's sort of working its way out? So, if we get a few weeks into the season and the Jaguars are actually looking pretty good and the Falcons look terrible, then suddenly that might be where you start to think about maybe Atlanta going through a fire sale situation. But as far as the trade rumors that are active with Kyle Pitts, I don't necessarily see anything happening in the near future. Obviously, how preseason football goes is going to determine if the Jaguars are comfortable with the tight end position moving forward, or if they hit the panic button and go, wait a second, Strange isn't the answer. We need to find somebody else to fill this role. But this is one of those holes in the roster that might be a hole, and it might actually already be filled by somebody that can be a good long-term solution for the future. A lot of that depends on whether Strange can take what he did in 2024 and translate that into growth in 2025 under a new offense. And of course, this is a big concern because teams that have a really solid tight end target just have that much more of a dynamic nature to the offense. So that's about where the Jaguars stand with the tight end position moving into the 2025 season. A lot of unanswered questions. Of course, I want to hear your guys' thoughts as well. What do you think about the tight end position? Do you want to see a pickup somewhere, or are you comfortable with Strange moving forward and trying to see how that pans out? Let us know in the comments down below. I'm Shane, and I will see you all in the very next video.